Surprise! It's a Buffy theory! I don't understand why I don't talk about Buffy more on the channel, considering it's only been one of my favorite shows since childhood. Don't know what happened there, but I do want to try and start including it more, so since we've had so much fun doing charm theories, I figured, why not do the same for Buffy? Could be fun, especially since, you know me, I love me a good theory, and this one was way too good not to cover, so today we're going to take a look back at the Buffy vs. Dracula episode and talk about why his seemingly random appearance on the show might not have been as random as it seemed.
Who are you?
I'm Dracula.
Get out!
In season 5 of Buffy, we're introduced to Glory, who is searching for something called the key that will allow her to rip open an interdimensional portal so she can go back to hell. Literally.
Glory and two of her fellow hell gods ruled over one of the more seriously unpleasant demon dimensions.
The beast will use your power to return home and seize control of the hell she was banished from.
Which, you know, wouldn't be the worst thing, but unfortunately, if she gets her way, she will also unleash hell on Earth in the process.
Once the key is activated, it won't just open the gates to the beast dimension. It's going to open all the gates. The walls separating realities will crumble. Dimensions will bleed into each other. Order will be overthrown and the universe will tumble into chaos.
So obviously nobody really wants her getting said key, but she's a super strong, nigh invulnerable hell god who can throw Buffy, one of the most powerful people on the planet, around like a rag doll. Telling her no, attempting to restrain her, or physically guard the key is just not gonna work. She's too strong and everybody knows it. Hence why the Order of Dagon, who had been guarding the key while it was in energy form, used the last of their power to transfigure the key and send it to Buffy in the form of a sister named Dawn, who is completely unaware of her former existence because when the monks created Dawn, they used Buffy's essence to do so and rewrote the memories of everyone close to her so that they would believe that Dawn has always existed, and the key would not only have physical protection in the form of a slayer, but also a network of people around her that loved her and would be willing to protect her at all costs.
They sent her to me, Giles. I think I have to take care of her. I want to.
Which was actually a really smart move on their part, but it does beg the question, how did the monks get Buffy's essence in the first place? She had never met or even heard of the Order until the 5th episode of season 5, No Place Like Home, but Dawn had already arrived in the first episode of season 5. So how did these monks, who Buffy's never encountered before, get a hold of her essence? And what even is her essence? Is it spirit? Power? Blood? Blood. Now that's really interesting because if you think about it, season 5 puts a huge emphasis on blood and its importance and connection to Dawn.
It's always got to be blood.
It's Summer's blood. It's just like mine. She's me. The monks made her out of me.
So it would make a lot of sense if the monks had used Buffy's blood to create Dawn. But again, how would they have gotten her blood if they've never met her before? Well, this theory by Zix on Reddit offers the idea that maybe they got her blood from Dracula, who was the vessel sent to Sunnydale by the monks to obtain her blood so they could create Dawn. The more I think about it, the more it actually explains so much about Dracula and his seemingly random inclusion in the story. I mean, when we first see him, he says that he's been searching for Buffy.
Why else would I come here? For the sun? I have searched the world over for you.
But why Buffy? Slayers have existed for a long time, even longer than Dracula himself, and there's even multiple Slayers alive at this current point in time. So why, after all these centuries and all the Slayers that have existed during that time, do you seek out Buffy Summers in Sunnydale? Her blood. We've seen that getting a Slayer's blood is no easy task given how strong they are, so if the monks wanted to get a hold of Buffy's blood, it would make sense to send in someone like Dracula, who could use a combination of power and persuasion to obtain some of it for them to use.
And he has all these mental powers to draw them in. He can read and control minds and appear in dreams.
And maybe it wasn't just blood he was there for, because if you think about it, the monks literally wrote Dawn into existence, seamlessly incorporating her into everyone's lives without changing anything else that had happened. Monsters they'd fought, relationships they'd had, it all stayed the same. How did the monks know so much about their lives that they were able to write in such a major character without changing anything else, without help? So I think it's possible that when Dracula put Xander under his control,
You will be my emissary, my eyes and ears in daylight.
Your emissary.
Serve me well.
Maybe he also used their connection to access Xander's memories in order to gather enough information to be able to include Dawn in the narrative without it raising any suspicions or changing any major events. And speaking of Dracula's powers, specifically that part about appearing in dreams, the events of Season 5 seem to have been preordained, considering Buffy has been having prophetic dreams foreshadowing these events since Season 3.
Little Miss Muffet counting down from 730. That's just with little sis coming. I know.
Be back before dawn.
And in one of those dreams, Tara says,
You think you know what's to come? What you are? You haven't even begun.
and this exact phrase is echoed by Dracula in this episode.
You think you know what you are, what's to come. You haven't even begun.
Why put that in there if you're not trying to tie the two events together? One of the featurettes of Season 5 tried to make it sound like they just did that to reiterate that there's something inside Buffy that's a killer.
Is it continuing to explore the theme that we had been exploring in Season 4, which was how much of her power comes from the fact that there's something inside of her that is actually a killer.
But I think it's more than that. This Dawn stuff was planned out way too well, and some promos for this episode even used the tagline, "They were destined to meet." Which, it could just mean that because she's a vampire slayer and he's probably the most famous vampire to have ever existed, they were destined to meet at some point, but it could also be referring to Buffy's actual destiny.
You're a killer. This is all set down.
Especially since something that really caught my attention was in the Reddit post Zix made, they pointed out that when Buffy and the gang first meet Dracula in the graveyard, there's a shot where Dracula appears directly in front of the figure of a hooded monk. Now, it could just be pure coincidence, but considering the fact that the show was filming in a studio instead of a real cemetery, the gravestones and statues in the background would have been designed and placed by the production team, so maybe it was put there on purpose as a subtle hint towards his connection to the Order of Dagon. Especially since something I noticed when I rewatched the Order of Dagon scenes is that there are several very similar figures to the one Dracula appeared in front of throughout the scene. So yeah, very sus for a coincidence. And the thing is, the Buffy wiki says that the Order of Dagon was formed in the 12th century, and Dracula is also centuries old. Both entities have been around a long time, and considering the fact that the Order of Dagon was formed in the Czech Republic and Dracula is from Romania, which are only a few countries apart from each other, it's very possible that during all those centuries, they could have crossed paths at some point. And just for the record, I would imagine that the Knights of Byzantium, who were also an ancient order who had been around for centuries and were also, after the key, originate from the Byzantine Empire, likely in the area of present-day Turkey, which is just a stone's throw from Romania. And I just think that the odds that 3 separate entities from that side of the world all happened to appear in Sunnydale in the same year, if they weren't all connected to the key and also had somehow never met. And another potential clue to Dracula being tied to Dawn's arrival is how the Buffy vs. Dracula episode talks a lot about darkness and Buffy's true nature.
Perhaps, but your power is rooted in darkness.
For a creature whose darkness rivals my own.
Which we also heard about during Buffy's prophetic dreams foretelling Dawn's arrival.
I live in the action of death, the blood cry, the penetrating wound. I am destruction, absolute, alone.
The Slayer.
And we also know that people who are mentally unwell can see the distortion in reality caused by Dawn's existence.
There! There's no one in there. I know what you are.
You're nothing. You're a shadow. Mom, I don't know what you are, how you got here.
Buffy is also able to see this distortion when she casts a spell to try and find what could be making her mom sick. So I'm wondering if it's also possible that April, the robot that Warren built, also gave us a subtle hint to this.
When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And
Things are always darkest before.
Notice how she's just throwing out random sayings at first, but when she starts to malfunction and shut down, that's when she tries to mention Dawn but gets cut off.
Things are always darkest before.
It's likely that what she was trying to say was, it's always darkest before the dawn, or it's always darkest before dawn, and it could just be a throwaway line, but I have a feeling that every line regarding Dawn is there for a reason. And also, the darkness she's referring to might refer to literal darkness, because I didn't know this until I went searching for the thread that had the original theory, so I can link it in the description for you guys. But turns out there's now another Reddit page discussing this theory that points out that Dracula's arrival in a town is usually preluded by storms, since he has control over the weather. And what do we see in this episode?
Incente. It's no big. You just have to balance the elements so when you affect one, you don't wind up causing. I didn't do it!
Maybe she didn't balance the elements correctly, but maybe it really wasn't her. It was him. Maybe that line about darkness was a clue about his connection to Dawn. But I still think that the single most concrete piece of evidence supporting this theory is the fact that Dawn arrives immediately after the encounter with Dracula. As in, she arrives at the very end of the same episode, the season 5 premiere, Buffy vs. Dracula.
What are you doing here?
Buffy, if you're going out, why don't you take your sister?
Mom!
It's almost like once Dracula got them the blood, they finally had everything they needed and were able to create Dawn. And that's why she appears immediately after him. So yeah, maybe Dracula really did just randomly show up in Sunnydale to pay a visit to Buffy, but I personally think that this theory makes a lot of sense and is probably right. But let me know what you think. Is there anything you've noticed that might add to the theory, or something that maybe works against it? Let me know. And also let me know if you guys want to see more Buffy theories in the future, because I really do love Buffy, and this was actually pretty fun. So I definitely wouldn't mind digging deeper into the Buffy lore if that's something you guys would like to see. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Bye!